Hi guys, welcome to this week's Heart to Heart with Tova, and I have my lovely granddaughter Summer with me today. This video is going to be slightly different. We have a lovely guest and her name is Tauma, and she is a lovely lady. We're just going to talk about who she is, what she does in her practice, and we're going to give her some love. So let's get into it, shall we? Yeah. Hi, welcome, Tauma. Is it Tauma? Am I saying the word right?
Tauma.
Tauma. That's lovely. It's like me. I'm Tova, so it's like yeah. So it's lovely of you to come and do this. So welcome. You're very, very welcome, and we're very excited to be talking to you today. And as I say, this is my granddaughter Summer, and she helps me sometimes on some of the shows. So it's really nice. She's really cool, aren't you? So, would you like to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you practice?
Yeah, sure. I pretty much I've been in the path for probably around, I think, 6 years or so.
Okay.
I don't really have like a word to say like define. I've realized that over the years it's sort of like it's just sort of like a magical path.
Okay.
Honestly, like you learn about different things, and if I would put anything, it would be, I'm more of I work more with internal alchemy.
Okay. Yeah.
So a lot of shadow work, a
Yes.
lot of shadow work, a lot of changing the mind
Mm-hmm.
in order to then change
Yeah.
external outcomes.
That's very similar to what I do. Yeah.
Just nature stuff. I'm really been studying herbalism, medical
Okay.
herbalism for some years, and yeah, so.
Oh, that's really interesting. I like it when other people do things differently, otherwise it would be boring, wouldn't it? Everyone did the same. So, yeah, there's a big umbrella and everyone's under it and they'll do their own little bits, but it somehow all comes together and it's a big community. But yes, it's very similar to what I do with Seda. It's very internal, very using the mind, using the heart, using the soul. But with me, the herbalism side, not so much. I use it in a different way, not in a medicinal way. But yeah, that's cool. Do you do spell work?
Yeah, I do spell work. It's a little bit. I don't do so much of the sort of like sit down and do a whole candle and all this stuff. I
Right.
usually do things like outside, like
Okay.
in nature.
Mm.
I do right now. I'm actually preparing because I found a deer
Right.
bones in the acreage that I have,
Oh,
and
that's
I'm
lovely.
preparing it. Yeah, I'm preparing it to do a servitor, but I
Lovely.
haven't done a servitor because I wanted to have a specific house,
Okay.
and I didn't want anything purchased. I wanted it to be given by nature.
Right.
So and I'm sort of doing that, but mostly it's just a lot of internal mental things, which is one of the things I did. I would call it a spell work. Um, Years ago, I've always struggled with, with classes and grades. In school, I was
Yeah.
always doing tutoring. They did a test to see if I had any problems, and they realized that I have very low IQ. It was
Okay.
almost border to mild, retardation. When I went to university, I struggled too, and I took the IQ test multiple times throughout my life. And I think when I was in my 30s, I sort of get the timeline a little bit bad, but I think around my 30s, I decided to get into this path, as I've already pretty much detoxed or gotten out of the Judeo-Christian religion. You know, I did a lot of work in that because I didn't want to start something with still having things from other religion. I did a spell work with a seal of Solomon.
Yes. Yeah.
Then that one is for the one that I chose was for knowledge, and the spell I did it very specific, and I seek to understand. Because I can have any knowledge I want, but if I don't understand it,
Mm.
then what is the point of the spell? Is not gonna work.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I was like, okay, what is the key to being knowledgeable? Well, it's to understand, and connect the dots. So I used the Solomon seal. I checked with the astrology, like the colors, the day, and everything. And then after I did the spell work, I did research, because spell work is more of sort of the ethereal. There's two things. There's what you don't see, and then what you see, the material and the non-material. And we're part of both. It makes sense that I work, I do a spell for, to just send that out, but then I do something in the physical world so it can, manifest. So in the physical world, I did a lot of research of how the brain learns.
Right.
And I pretty much started learning about everything, even though I didn't understand anything. I started learning about physics, microbiome, quantum physics, medicine, psychology, sociology, history, anything that I didn't know, I would just get into that. And the first 3 years, I was just sort of tired because I'm like, I don't know anything. That I'm only understanding 10% of everything I get.
Right.
But I just continue. And I also use herbs. I use psilocybin, and I use amanita, because mushrooms have been throughout history, people have been using them to understand greater
Mm.
things. And we've actually evolved using that. And, there's
It's
studies that
amazing.
actually show that it has neurogenesis,
Mm-hmm.
that it helps with trauma, it helps with cognition, intelligence, so many things. So
Right.
I also put that in the mix. And after around like 3 years, just something changed. And I sort of started sort of connecting the dots. I would be maybe grocery shopping out of nowhere. Like, I would just have these moments of insight of, let's say, understanding, for example, like string theory, like,
Right.
because of all this information that your brain is gathering, and then finally your brain starts connecting the dots, and then I would just understand everything because it all happened in the background. I would just be like, wow. And
Yeah.
then it started happening more and more, and then I started understanding more of what I read, and
Mm.
eventually I started understanding really complex things. And I
Right.
continued taking the IQ test, and I think it was like 60 something when I was a little kid, and then like 63. Then I took it again when I was 20 something, 62. Then I took it again when I was like 30. It was like 64. Then at 35, it was like 62 again. I took it again at 37, and it was around like, I think like 68. Time that it went up significant for me, and I was like, oh, something's happening. And then the last time I took it was when I was 40, And
Mm.
that's the last time that I took it, and it was 120.
Wow, that's
So
amazing.
so and I believe that that's usually the magic that I do is,
Sure.
I do a lot of work with the mind, and I'm trying to not only understand how the mind works,
Mm-hmm.
the mechanisms in the subconscious, because I also do a lot of dream, a lot of what do you call this, the dreams that you know that you're dreaming.
Yeah,
What do you
lucid
call it?
dreaming.
So, and when I'm lucid dreaming, I try to understand the reality of what is a dream and the extent to what I can do. I've been
Okay.
able to do certain things, but I haven't been able to recreate, to be in a dream and actually change a house into an ocean. I've been able to do many things, but I've also tried to understand consciousness
Hmm.
when I'm dreaming, and
Right.
to try to understand many things. And one thing that I've actually have started to come across, and I think it's because of the heavy shadow work, the psychoanalysis, and understanding myself, to
Hmm.
why I think a certain way, why I act a certain way, why I feel this way around these things, is
Mm.
that recently I've been able to have to be aware of multiple thoughts at once, which is something that
Right.
I thought that is not possible. And I've
Yeah,
researched it, and everybody says that it's not possible.
it is possible. I've
Now,
experienced it
now I
myself.
yeah,
Yeah,
now I
yeah,
actually believe that it is, and just
yeah.
because you haven't experienced something doesn't mean that. Now, can you? Do we have the the mechanisms and the things to prove it, to get the
Mm.
data? Not at the moment. One of them, I think I was thinking about something of my relationship with my husband,
Mm.
and I was just analyzing, the argument we had,
Hmm.
and analyzing like why I felt a certain way, why did it go that way, just psychoanalyzing. And but at the same moment, I was also aware and analyzing different theories of quantum physics and some uh, philosophical ideas,
Hmm.
and coming up with my own theories, and
Right.
both in conjunction at the same time. I was aware of both, but I
Mm.
realized that I when I was in that place, I wasn't aware of my surroundings. So I'm thinking, well, can this be trained willingly? Not
It's
when.
amazing. It is amazing. I mean, I saw a story of a young boy who was born and they said he had no brain. And yet 9 years later, he now has a brain. His brain grew. And it was through them constantly getting him to do things constantly. And he had this prognosis that no, he's going to die. He won't live no long. And he's still alive. And now his IQ is really good and he's doing everything a normal child would do. And that is the possibilities of what we can do with our minds, with our brains. And mankind can't tell us what's possible because we only use a certain amount of our brains.
Yeah.
So we as practitioners know there's more, there's much more. And what you've done is proving it, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that the more that I study, I realize that for me, it's more, in all honesty, it's more science
Yeah.
than. At the beginning, my grandmother, she was a witch,
Okay.
and she did a practice that was santeria and espiritismo, and I really, you know, I I've always been very analytical as a child, very observant. So I had a lot of difficulty just in the woo woo things, in things that were more, I found them like superstitious. But then I decided to, if I want know if something is real to have my own opinion, then I
Mm,
have to fully, welcome it,
yeah.
and see if that is true, and why. And what I found out is that, um, there is so much uh, intertwining with quantum mechanics.
Mhm.
There's the double slit experiment that's when the particles are supposed to it's just supposed to be particles, but then when people you have somebody, not a machine, like it has
Mm,
to be a consciousness observing it, it turns into waves.
right.
Waves, or the other way around, is it?
Mm,
I forget, I mixed them up. But that also has to do with magic in many ways. And also the one that they did about one thing affecting the other one, doesn't matter where it is,
yeah.
you know. So, and I also read about this was an experiment that they did in a university. I think they call it the power of eight,
Mm,
just to name it. And the experiment was to send sort of good intentions to plants, to just plants that were growing, and the
yeah.
plants were in another country. And then the students were told, they were shown a picture. So the students would just send all of these positive things: grow, you are
Mm,
kind, you're
hmm.
beautiful, all of these things. And then
Yeah.
they had the control of the plants that weren't send any intentions, good or bad. And
Right.
then at the end, they saw that the plants that were sent good intentions by the students, they grew faster, they were greener, and the other ones were shorter. So you see
Mm,
that there was definitely an impact of
yeah.
the human consciousness to other living things. Repeated the experiment multiple times, and they got the same result
Mm.
multiple times. There's also an experiment with a Japanese moto, I can't remember his name, that he did an experiment with water.
Okay.
And then the one with water, he pretty much checked the water under a microscope, and he took pictures. And he would have the consciousness, somebody speak words of kindness to the
Right.
water, and then words of being angry, or pretty
Mm.
much just non-caring, nothing at all.
That's amazing because that actually bears out what happens when, say, for example, in a coven, when you're doing the salt and water, you're doing things, you're speaking into that water and it's accepting what you're saying. And so it bears out what witches have been doing for years and years and years, but scientifically it's now being proved.
Yeah, and there is data, there is plenty of data. And what it showed is the pictures were incredibly different from one another. The pictures that
Mm,
were of the water, you're speaking, words of kindness, thank you, I love you,
mm,
uh you're good, all of these things, they were crystallized. All the pictures were like flakes, they were a good
mm,
patterns. And then the water that was said, words of anger and disgust, they have very irregular patterns,
mm-hmm.
very and also the water would start rotting.
Right.
And then they did the experiment multiple times, they got the same thing. Then they did the experiment with rice, and
Okay.
they would have the same results every single time. The rice that was said the negative words, and
Mm-hmm.
even people do it in the internet. You can check it in YouTube, and you can see people's experiments, because people got
Yeah.
curious. And the rice would rot, would get moldy very quick, would rot. And then the other rice would stay fresh for way longer
Yeah.
periods of time. And it would go bad, but it wouldn't rot, it would just like dry out.
Mm,
So all of that plays in. People say like, oh well, uh the all of the spells, you know, they don't work. You do something with the mind and heal yourself. It actually does work. There's data that proves that consciousness and the intention actually intrinsically translates into the palpable world, the physical world. So it actually is true.
And it just proves points really that, you know, as I said, like people have been doing this sort of stuff for so many years, and it's always been, no, there's nothing that's not real, but it is real. And there's
Yeah.
so much more that we can find out and learn. Like yourself, I had a very low IQ when I was at school. I was classed as the dunce, you know, she's never going to learn anything. And even my granddaughters had the same thing through ill health. And so she is learning. I've learned over the years, and the more witchcraft I've done, the more intelligent I have become. And people now say, oh, you're intelligent. And it's because I've worked at it like yourself.
Oh.
And it's possible. All things are possible.
Yep, all things are. And I believe that. I believe that, you know, there's many ways to getting to a place, and there's
Yeah.
many ways to solve a problem. So there's nothing in. And even people say, well, you know, with money, for
Mm.
example, people doing spells. So the also part of learning has helped me with that, because, you know, not only doing spells, but you also have to put the, sorry about that.
It's all right.
You also have to put in the work. So I went to study then finance, because I wanted to understand, because a lot of the, I think, magical work, you use a lot of symbolism. You
Yeah.
use a lot of things that throughout the years, you know, have been used by people, and
Mm.
hold a certain amount of, let's say, the collective consciousness, the
Yeah.
collective sort of pool of, I don't know if I'm making sense, but
Yeah, yeah, it does. It's intent as well, and it's like absorbing into where you're stacking it, and so it's like a power. It's like a power cell which you can go into and take out of when you need.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, if you want to have prosper, not in the physical world, but in
Mm-hmm.
the system, because, you know, I learned that sometimes we, you know, if I talk about prosperity, then there's different types of prosperity. I can
Yeah,
be prosperous emotionally.
of
I can
course.
be prosperous, you know, in the natural world, being
Yeah,
that I have shelter, I have food, I have safety, not
yeah,
luxury, and or being prosperous in the system, which is
yes.
man built, which is like, you know, all this car things and
Mm-hmm.
conveniences, and, you know, currency, and all of these things that aren't really needed for our survival and evolution.
Yeah,
It's just convenience for us.
of course.
So I learned that with money, actually, the what I thought that was money was green, the dollar, is actually dead.
Mm-hmm.
So that is, it even says it on the paper bill. So any country that does not have a currency backed by gold, how it was in the past,
Yeah.
you actually have debt. So what the dollar symbolizes is debt. And
Uh-huh.
through currency that has been used throughout history, and the people that actually have wealth, they have gold. They have a
Right.
lot of gold, because
Mm-hmm.
gold is intrinsic, and you can have gold is taken anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Where, let's say, in your country, suddenly it collapses, and then your dollar is not worth anything. Gold is the true currency. So when I do spells with money, I make sure that I never use dollar bills. And I found out that that has at least, you know, worked for me, and I've been able to retire early. I've been able
Mm-hmm.
to, you know, find also means to have passive income through stocks and things like that. then you don't have to work, have a job that you're like, oh, I have to do this, and the environment is not healthy, but I have to do this so I can pay my bills.
mm, mm,
But it's not until I learned about finance that I was able to use that to apply it not only to my magical practice, but
sure.
also to the system and be able to prosper in both areas. So I think
Right.
learning is very key when they say that witches, and my own experience is that in the witchcraft or the magical community,
Hmm.
there's I find that it's beautiful that people usually are very curious, and that
Yes.
is that is a trait of you being able to get ahead in life. Always be curious, always learn,
Always have an open mind.
and and and
Yes.
and put yourself out there so you can get your own experience. And I find that a lot of witches have sort of that mental framework that
Mm,
they usually do not want to, they're not okay with accepting that somebody told them this is how it is.
mm-hmm.
That they're like, yeah, but why? And I
Hmm.
want to see why it is. I want to have my own experience. And
Yeah,
I find that
exactly.
really beautiful, and that got me to where I am. So it's a beautiful path.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it just shows, I mean, something like what you've done, you've got so much you could give out to others because you've found these things, you've searched for them, and you've put it into practice, and that can speak to hundreds of people, thousands of people eventually. And once they learn, the world can change. Everything can change. So what you're giving is really, really important because they've obviously the in the ethos there, they've looked at you and they said, we're going to use this lady and we're going to bring out stuff that other people don't know, that they've only thought about and not taken it further. But you did, because you had a blank start and you came forwards and you found out all this stuff, and it's really amazing. But we've always thought as witches, I was always taught, you're scientists as well, because everything is built, like when you go back to medieval times, they didn't know what electricity was, but until they did find out, it was magic.
Yeah.
So everything that you learn is a magical thing until the understanding of it comes into it. So yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've also been researching, and, a lot of things that I grew up thinking, or being told that they're things in the movies, or, you have to be special, you have to be gifted with this, or, be the chosen one, like, ooh, no. And I realized that everybody has the capacity
Yeah,
for many things. Like, for example, telekinesis. That's actually a real thing.
yeah,
That's not woo woo. At first I thought it was woo woo. I'm like, oh, that's, but it's because the movies exaggerate things.
of
It's
course.
telekinesis is not that I'm gonna, lift the car with my mind, but
No.
it was practiced in ancient China for
Hmm.
many centuries. And the practice, they call it Neidong.
Okay.
So there's Tai Chi, there's Qigong, and then there's Neidong. So that stemmed from their own. I think it's. I see it more as a philosophy, Tao Te Ching, but from there came a lot of other things like philosophy, then esoteric practices,
Mm.
and it's what they do is that they work a lot internally, and they pretty much are able to have a connection, build a connection with their own body, not
Hmm.
only with sensing their body internally, but also with our energy. So everybody has energy. It's not
Yes.
a subjective thing. It's an objective thing. It's actually data driven. We do have energy. We all
Mm.
do as human beings,
Of
and
course.
all of the living things have energy.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they actually are able to, with practice, uh, you know, um, sort of conduct and
Hmm.
move energy throughout their body, and not
Yeah.
only internally to help heal or get out blockages and ease
Hmm.
pain, more
Hmm.
like medical things, but also projected into the external world. So when they projected outwardly, you can move an object with energy, because energy does have mass,
Hmm.
just like air has mass. You can't
Of
see it, but it
course.
has mass.
Yeah.
So you actually move objects with your energy.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
and
Yeah.
so and that is possible. And they did experiments back in the I think as early as the 1930s in certain countries. Then
Mm.
they did it in Russia, and there's
Yeah.
footage of that.
I
That
remember them. I remember them when they used to put it on the telly about,
yeah,
and they used to show that, these people were like going like that, and you'd see this stuff moving. And
and they
yeah,
were
at
just
first you
common
think,
people.
yeah,
They
you
were
just think,
common people.
you've never seen that, have you? You'd love that. I'll have to try and find them for you.
Yeah.
And, when I was 5 years old, me and my sister, who was older, um, we had similar abilities, and she didn't like it. She didn't like it at all. But I was able to, not even knowing I was doing it, because I had this really severe ill health, but I would look at something if I got emotional and it would move. And so they got interested, at the doctors got interested in me. And it was like a passing thing. When I got to 6, it stopped. But that's because you become more aware of what you're being
Yes.
told. But yeah, my sister had the ability too. But once it stopped, they lost interest in us. But it's there. Everyone's got that ability. But
Yeah. The
I
only
didn't know I was doing it at the time. It was
yeah.
just happening. So
I
yeah.
think that the only difference that I've seen is just, it's just like everything. Like some people have are just better at cooking than others.
Yep.
Some people are better at painting. Just intrinsically has, it came with them. But
Mm,
that doesn't mean that you can't learn how to paint, or
of
you
course.
can't learn how to cook.
Mm,
So everybody possesses this. We all have these things. So we all can develop,
mm,
what interests us, whether it's, telekinesis,
mm-hmm,
whether it's magic work,
mm,
like deeply knowing the mechanics of consciousness,
yeah.
and the wheel, and the natural world, the non-tangible, so you can influence it, and try to
Mm,
know all the things, because everything you learn you can apply, and
yeah.
you're going to be able to be more specific. You're going to be able to be more concise,
Mm,
to get from point A to point B in whatever thing you're doing, or spell work,
mm.
or place.
So, do you have any views on helpers, like spiritual helpers and guides and things? Do you work with anything like that?
um I haven't I've been wanting to, but the there's a thing. When I was growing up little, and still today, I remember my mom, she used to tell me that when I was born, I was very little.
Hmm.
So I used to have things, following me, and they
Hmm.
were shadows,
Okay.
unfortunately. And once I was crying, and she went into the bedroom, and when she opened the door, she saw a shadow, like, just into my crib. And
Right.
then when she made a noise, the shadow sort of, like, it looked like it saw her. You can't tell because they don't have any eyes, but it sort of stood, and then it went running into um the closet, because the closet is all dark, so they just disappear. You can't see
Of
them anymore.
course. Mm.
And when she saw me, I was just purple. It looked like I've been screaming my head out for
Oh,
forever. And growing up, when I was in sort of my grandmother's house, my mom's mother, There were a lot of
Yeah.
bad things happening in there, and I these things would always be around me, and I would
Right.
see that they didn't bother anyone,
Mm.
and but they just seemed to, just and I
Hang
didn't want to
around.
interact with them, and I saw another shadow, and then when it saw that I saw it, then it, ran away. I would see
Mm.
people. I saw this lady that she looked like from the 1950s or something,
Okay.
and she didn't even look like she was from my country because I grew up in an island, in a tropical island.
Right.
So there's no people with red hair.
Okay.
And she had red hair. She had a green dress with white dots, polka dots. And I remember her so much because she just wouldn't leave. She was just there
Oh.
staring. And I remember having a nightmare of dogs with like black dogs, completely black dogs. They were Dobermans, and for eyes they just have blood. They
Oh.
didn't have eyes. It
Mm.
was just blood moving, and they were following me and my baby sister. And I climbed up a tree, and they just sat one beside each side of the tree, and they just stared. They just stared, and I felt that they weren't part of my dream. There's just this
Right.
strange feeling that
Yeah.
it's sort of like your dream has been invaded. I could tell that was not part of me.
No.
That wasn't me. That was something outside of me.
Right.
And then my grandmother, sh- uh, she was talking with my mom, and she mentioned that she kept having this nightmare of two black dogs with blood in their eyes, one beside each side of her bed. And she wanted to get out of her bed, but she couldn't because those dogs were just looking at her, and she felt that they wanted to just rip her apart.
Mm.
And so I've been, I don't know why that's the case. Um,
Right.
and nobody else in my family seems to have that.
Well, it's an ability that you've obviously got from birth, and like myself, it starts off like that, and
But I
then
don't
you
know if it's negative, if it was something
know.
positive. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I've been a little bit hesitant, and I
Sure.
want to make sure that
Yeah.
first I get the fear out, because I don't think, my own experience and my opinion, you shouldn't go into anything, whether the craft or not the craft, with
Mm.
fear. Fear
Exactly.
is a terrible master.
Yes, it is.
Because it is a master. When you have fear,
Yeah.
that thing is controlling you. What controls you owns you. So I need
Exactly.
to be able to take that out so I
Yeah.
can then be in the front line
Mm.
consciously, and be able to not attract certain things. But
Right.
um I haven't opened that kind of worms.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, for me,
Yeah.
I was born that way, and like yourself, the beginnings were like dark shadows and things that were not nice and scary. And it took me many years to work out that I needed to go higher and to leave that behind, and then to experience the higher beings, the ones that are helpful, the ones that are going to come to you and be, protectors and all that, and work with you. But it did take many years. And as you say, fear is the one key that can shut the door and lock it. And so, yeah, I understand where you're coming from on that. But if you was to persevere, I think you may well find this other realm, which is absolutely amazing and would add to what you've learned already. But it's brilliant that you had those experiences. You need to, like, say, wow, I've had them, but I don't want them at the moment.
Yeah,
Let me.
I need to learn more. And I think just because, I don't know if some people honestly attract because of just their emotional or cognitive composition, they attract certain
Yeah,
things more easily. Let's say
sure.
attract spirits. So if you're doing a seances, you're, you have,
Yeah.
person A versus person B, and person A easily is able to talk, more easily with
Mm.
other entities that are not in of the physical world, and then person B has to really work on it.
Yeah.
So, in being that that's a possibility, I don't know if that's the case with me, and I want to make sure that,
Sure.
first I have an understanding of
Hmm.
things, and
Hmm.
I first change my mind, because that's what I did first after I got out of religion. I wanted to make sure that I changed my mind from one that was full of just you can't do's, a lot of limitations, mental
Sure.
limitations from indoctrination of
Yeah.
religion, of the system of education. Indoctrination just inhibits the great possibility of the mind.
Yeah.
So I had to, you know strip from a lot of things to let my mind be free and in a better place to then be able to, embrace a,
Yeah.
a different place.
So you're doing it your way, which is the best way for you. So
Yeah,
yeah,
first internally and then externally.
yeah, yeah. So it's really cool. I mean, it's lovely to hear like the science and the the esoteric to be brought together, and you're doing a really good job on that. So, what is your outlook for your future? Have you got plans to use it in any way to help others, or just keep going the way you're going?
Yeah, I actually, I had a group for a while. I think it was probably like a year.
Okay.
We were transitioning into a coven, but I actually ended up moving out because I lived in the city, and
Okay.
I never liked the city. It's just too much for me. It's
Yeah.
just too much. It's too overwhelming.
Yeah.
And things are obviously getting bad with, political things
Oh,
globally, not
yeah.
only
I
locally but
know.
globally. And I wanted to be in a place that, if because it seems that things are gonna finally hit the fan.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure that I'm in a peaceful place, that in a
Yeah.
more safer environment, which is the country. Um,
Yeah.
so I moved,
Mm.
and but I did have the group, and I do try to, find ways to share what I know. But I've also realized that I don't know if it's a thing of today, which I probably think that it has a lot to do just because of how we are brought up in the system, that
Mm.
people don't want to do the work. They just
Exactly.
they have been so
Mm.
taught and
Yep.
indoctrinated by the system that, everything has to be quick.
Yep.
Everything is like a fast food. Like I go there, I in 1 minute I just pay, and then I get my burger and my fries, and everything has a process. So
Mm.
it's no different for the magical path, and for us we had a process in coming into this world, in
Mm.
being formed and coming.
Yep.
We have a process of aging. Everything is a process, and we
So
have to
right.
go through the process to
Mm.
grow and to strengthen certain
Yep.
things. And when I start talking about things that are more complex, that are, it's actually the nuggets of you using. So because I've realized that the greater thing in magic is changing my mind.
Mm.
When my mind has changed, the magic changes. Change your mind, you change your reality in this little nugget. And when I try to tell people things, then people just sort of like lose interest, and they just start looking up and like, yeah,
I know.
where's the fun thing? Where are we gonna, you know uh
Mm.
do this thing, and reach point A, like in 3 days rather than 3 years,
I
you know.
know.
So it's a little bit difficult, but I do have an understanding, and it's not
Yeah,
the
yeah.
people's fault. It is just
No.
part of what the system
Mm.
creates. Purposely, I believe, so we
Yeah,
can stay asleep. We can
yeah.
stay not caring. We can stay sort of, you know, thinking always externally, oh, I have to change this, or I got to tell this person this, rather than you have to change yourself first.
Mm.
And then everything starts changing, and you start changing
Yes.
people around you
It's so
for the
much like
better.
when I joined a coven, you know, it's you start with you have to know yourself before you can know anything else. Know who you are, know what's going on within, and work on it, on those parts that need work. And the thing is, you had people that were there that didn't want to put the work in, that wanted things just like that, that couldn't understand why they couldn't have, but didn't know, hadn't got the knowledge because they didn't have the time. Whereas when I was there, I put everything into it. I put my heart and soul into it. And I did everything I was told. And I learned. And I got my high priesthood. And it was because I worked for it and I learned. But these other guys, they were like, oh, you're not doing that today, are you? Oh, I wouldn't do it straight away. They might tell you to, but I wouldn't. And I'm thinking, what are you doing here then? Why don't you want to learn? Why are you here?
So it's a little bit tricky getting people to get interested, but
Yeah.
I think it's in my nature. I've always I actually study in to be a teacher. So I went
Okay.
to college to be a teacher. So I would say it's in my blood, because I'm always trying to break things down.
Yeah.
Even with my husband, we get into conversations about religion, and
Yeah.
how is it possible versus the possibilities of uh, let's say a divinity, a one God, one creator
Mm.
existing, whether all the possibilities that it would not exist. And I sort of have philosophical and
Yeah.
metaphysical debates with him, and that's good things, because I've realized that through those conversations I actually am able to realize other things and come up with other things. So
Right.
and can also apply them in the shadow work and in the
Sure.
magical path and all of those things.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, most people just want the formula,
Yeah.
like
I mean, like when I started on my path with Seda, the first things was to learn how to journey, but to journey in a certain way for your protection. But you would face initiations within. So it's not a man-made thing. You're going to the realms, you're going to where they want you to go, and you're being taught, and you have to go through very, very dangerous situations because the mind has to understand what the realms are about. It's all metaphysical as well. It's all related together. And so when you've learned that lesson, you go on to the next stage and the next stage, and it becomes a learning curve. And it can be very, very scary or very, very exciting.
yes,
And, you know, and it opens you up, and it opens up
yes,
all possibilities of everything. So I say to some of the people I help, like, get down on your body on the floor and look at a blade of grass, and don't just see that grass, see within the grass, see the life and the world that's within it, because there is. And look at all those grains and see that if that's in that one, what's in the others, what's in the air, what's everywhere. And that, to me, is the amazing aspect of what we can perceive. But people are like, what are you talking about? Well,
yeah.
you've got to experience it to understand it.
Where's the formula? Where's
Yeah,
the book, the thing where you solve the problem, and you I get this spell, and it gets me the lottery or whatever. and
yeah.
and it's like that with, I think, with
It's like,
everything, like even in the medical aspect. I was very sick, I was bedridden,
Yeah.
for quite some time that
Okay.
I was actually dying, pretty
Oh,
much. I
yeah.
was dying because I got very sick from just chronic stress and just being in a unhealthy family. My
Mm-hmm.
family was had a they weren't good people.
Right.
So there was a
Yeah.
lot of emotional and physical abuse throughout, my whole life.
Mm,
So eventually, the body can only take so much until it starts
exactly.
breaking down. The
Yeah.
emotions affect the body. So I ended up getting sick from the my gut, and then from the gut it turned into autoimmune problems.
Yeah.
Then eventually I had really bad acid reflux. I couldn't digest anything. I started getting bacterial infections.
Mm.
I had to go to the hospital. My hair was falling. I was
Oh my goodness.
balding, and
Oh,
all my hair started turning white.
right.
And then like the you know I started looking like I was like 50, like very, and I was
Oh,
like only 37, and I started
yeah.
aging really rapidly. So I was declining like
Mm.
this.
Yeah.
And I wasn't able I had my lab work, I had kidney disease,
Yep.
my liver was bad, I had high bilirubin, I had terrible anemia, I had the starting of osteoporosis.
Oh my goodness.
I was just dying,
Yeah.
and I wasn't able. The inflammation, I wasn't able to do anything because the inflammation and the pain got so bad that I would vomit and sometimes pass
Oh,
out. So I couldn't work. I couldn't do anything, and I took it upon myself, and that's when I started the magical path. To
right.
also, part of the things that I would study was medical,
Right.
but it was medicine of the past of our ancestors, you know
Yeah.
from nature, because I believe that everything that we need, not only for sustainment but
Mm.
to heal, it's in our home.
Yeah.
And everything that is within us, we are created of what is. So
Mm.
what we need,
Definitely.
we take it from our home.
Yeah.
Things that are man-made, like the pharmaceuticals, they I think they should be used only for emergency, but when you use them with a prolonged time, they
Mm.
tend to cause other problems. You given a pharmaceutical for your nerves, and then within time it gives you problems with your kidneys, and then they give you another pharmaceutical to
Mm.
deal with the kidneys, and then but that one causes problems with the nerves. So you end up over the years having more and more pharmaceuticals
Yeah.
and being more sick but still functioning.
Yeah.
So I learned about the body. I learned how the body works. I learned about the microbiome, about
Mm.
herbs, and
Mm.
how they work in conjunction for certain things. And I was able to,
Mm.
well, as you can see me now, I'm functional. I'm
Mm.
not in bed anymore. And
Yes.
my hair is not white.
Yep.
I have hair. I did lose from like the past, like I cover it, but I was like completely, but it's grown and
Um.
it's still growing. But
Yep.
I've gotten better, and I had to pretty much take astragalus, which is
Mm.
a herb that actually works with activating the telomerase, which is your chromosomes. As you age,
Okay.
the ends, they deteriorate, and as they deteriorate, you have faulty copies, and then you start getting the diseases that are in your genes. Let's say
Mm.
your family has
Yeah.
diabetes, right? And
Yeah.
it's in your genes, but it depends on one, your health, and also your decline as you age.
Yes.
So, and as you age, they start coming out because they deteriorate. So when the strugglers actually prevents that age gracefully, you're still gonna age, but it actually prevents from those hereditary diseases,
Mm,
you know, coming out. So
yeah.
I did that. I do coffee enemas. I use herbs. I do grounding, and I
Mm-hmm.
found out that that actually helps a lot. That you let your feet
Yeah,
touch the ground, because
definitely.
the currents of the world actually are healthy currents, and they did test also. There's data that
Mm,
when we evolve not having shoes, so when you
mm,
put shoes on, you're cutting yourself. So healing, like physically for us, for our
mm,
nervous system, digestion, and everything in our
mm.
immune system. So I make sure that I get sun. I make sure that I do grounding. I
That's
do
really
the
good.
coffee enemas, and I do
Mm,
certain things. And then for pain, I stopped taking ibuprofen. I only take kratom, and
mm-hmm.
I interchange it with CBG and CBD. That's
Oh, right. Yeah,
cannabis.
that's good. Yeah, that's good
And
stuff.
I've been able to get my liver healthy again,
All
and my
right.
kidneys, because I took painkillers all the time to just to
Mm,
function, and
mm.
now I don't have to do that.
Oh, that's good. That's
And
good.
it's all with plants, and it's all
Mm,
natural.
yeah. I mean, Summer here, she was born with liver disease, and she had to have a liver transplant when she was 2.5. And so with her, hers was like damaged organ. And who knows in the future with mindset what would be able to be done. But obviously, on the world as it is, she didn't have a choice. But she's got a way now of keeping herself healthy. So that was a gift of life from, and I say it comes from the gods, because she's got a rare blood, and yet this was the right size for her, the right blood. It was so obvious that something was allowing this to happen. So with her, she's kept herself really good. I mean, others that have had transplants have not done well and have passed away, whereas she's had this now 12 years and it's still working well. And so we know it was divine, it was meant to be. And she is an advocate for that, and it's helping others, which is really cool. But yeah, there's so many different situations in the world, and but we can use our minds to change things or help others in
Yeah.
some way. How do you work with animals at all?
Um, I do. I don't have many here. I have my cat.
Mm,
Um, and I don't know. I just let her do her thing. If she wants to pretty much be with me when I'm doing a spell work,
yeah,
then you're welcome. Uh, but yeah, I sort of just I I I I don't really. I think it's just my way of being. I like things to come to me,
yeah,
because I know that they're there openly, you know.
mm,
Than to try to do a spell to, like, get a like a familiar, or get like a certain animal to aid me in this and this. I rather just say whatever has its best interest and wants to be,
mm,
support in this aspect of my path,
mm-hmm,
then let it be welcome,
yeah,
and depending what it is, I might say, I might give a little something, just so I know that that's it, just a little sign or something, so I know
okay,
it's that. Because if not,
mm,
it might be, who knows, a butterfly. And
all right,
I'm gonna think it's an animal, like, oh, it's a fox. I'm not gonna think like, oh, it's an insect. It's like, oh, it's an insect. Go away. But yeah,
mhm,
that probably might be. I
yeah,
might get an insect. I might not get, a pretty deer,
of course, yeah.
but everything is welcome.
Yeah, that's lovely. I know a lot of people that collect those, like, uh, butterflies that have passed away but are still so beautiful. So they use them in their magic, as guardians to take other animals over to the new world. And it's I love that. I think that's really nice. It's something I've tried to do in the past, but I don't seem to. Where I live, it's very difficult to get a hold of those sort of things. We don't get an abundance over here. Being in London, it's like, oh, it's just cramped and so many people.
You're not in the countryside?
No.
Oh,
No. I
that's
would
a
love to go and have a little, build a little log cabin in the woods with my big cauldron outside to cook my food in and to just be there with the animals. Oh, that would be bliss.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully soon. You
Yes.
retire, you move, you move to the country.
Have you got any social media at all?
Um, I only have Facebook. I'm a little bit of a hermit, and I
Okay,
do
that's
have
fair
the
dues.
YouTube.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't. I try. I've thought about doing videos, but I always shy
Yeah.
away. I'm like,
Oh, you
I
should.
well,
You should. You've got so much to offer people. So
I just
much they'd
don't know
really
that
appreciate.
the way, because the way that you talk and like your expressions and sort of like you have charisma
Oh,
with the
thank
camera.
you.
I don't know if I have that, and you know
Oh,
um
it
so
comes with time. When I first started, it was embarrassing. I had to get rid of a lot of them after a while. I thought, oh no. But you start off, and of course, you don't know to start with, but over time, it gets easier and better. And you just be yourself. I mean, you're doing that right now. You're being yourself, and you've got a lot of charisma too, and I think there's an opening for your type of what you do, which isn't there. And I think you do so well, like getting people to actually learn about this. It's not so much about making money, because that's certainly something I don't do. It was my vocation to teach others, to help others, and that's I see in you. You would do sort of a similar thing. So never say never.
no,
Always
well,
try.
I've actually thought about it, and one thing I decided that I talk with my husband about is that
Yeah,
um, I do want to help, to give something
yeah,
to the world. And we're living in times that there's the the media, the people on the top,
yeah,
they
yeah.
the things that they choose are things that divide us. That's what they
Exactly.
spread. So there's a
Yeah,
lot of good things happening in the world, but what they feed us is all the negative things that are
yeah.
dividing, and that
Terrible.
are just us not liking each other. Um, and I like a lot of the medical herbalism. So I
Yeah.
actually decided to go back to school to
Right.
actually do the graduate, the master's and doctorate
Mm-hmm.
in medical natural doctor.
Right.
So it's like natural path. It's the same thing, but so to do that and also probably do dual degree with
Mm-hmm.
medical herbalism.
Right.
So and be able to, since I retired and I don't really have to work,
Okay.
then I've been thinking about probably doing a practice that I can see people that
Mm-hmm.
don't have insurance, because right now
Right.
how it is in countries, it's all
Yeah.
a company, it's all a profit based thing
Mm.
where
Yeah.
humans are just things, money production. They're
Of course.
taking the humanity out of us. We're just seen as
Mm.
things to produce, and unfortunately people are having the things that they're being taught, it's things that just make us sick, from the food
Mm-hmm.
to lifestyle to how normal is, which is everybody being anxious, which actually it's a killer to your immune
Yeah.
system. But it's put as it's normal. Oh, everybody's got anxiety. We just live in a busy world. No, that's gonna kill you in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
You can't function with your adrenals up here all the time. You're gonna
Mm.
crash. You know,
Yeah.
so I want to be able to give in that way and teach people in a way that they can heal themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and to put that power into the hands of the people again, and take it away
Mm.
from the the big companies that
Yeah,
profit. There's so many ways to cure cancer,
of course.
and like through through Gerson therapy. You have RSO, which is
Mm.
cannabis, is a medical grade, and you have so many ways. And they actually ban that in many countries that are developed, which is countries that are run by companies, plutocratic countries, if you have a term for it.
I mean, if
So
you go back to medieval times, I mean, cancers were still around, and they would use urine, for example, and they would powder it, and then it would be given to the person, even through the mouth. But sounds awful, but they had quite a good outcome, because they would also relieve it by putting poultices around the
yes,
lump and draw it out. And some of these people survived.
yeah.
So, yeah,
And they died because they didn't have all of the technology that we have now to
yeah,
actually go in a lab and sequence plants, and see all the things that we can actually use them
yeah,
before ingesting them and getting poisoned, which in the past they didn't have that. They would have to
exactly.
try it and
Yeah,
roll the dice, see like, well, let's
yeah,
see if it does something good. If you live, we might we might
I
take it into
know.
account. No,
But
we don't
take
have to
a lot of
do that.
lessons from them, really. If you look back,
Yeah.
some of the stuff that they did, it worked, you know. And nowadays, everything is, oh, just pop a pill, pop a pill.
Yeah, yeah, and I really want to be able to help out with that. Even like for me, I used to
Mm.
um I lost like around 40 or 50 pounds, and I was already like diabetic,
Yeah.
because I was just I what I learned is what everybody's been taught. I grew up eating cookies
Mm-hmm.
and ice cream. I have
Mm.
a half of ice cream tub, and then go to
Yeah.
sleep,
Mm.
and just eat potato chips and
Yeah.
really bad stuff.
Everything with carbohydrates in,
Yeah,
basically. Yeah.
and that's what I've been taught. And
Mm.
when you get older, it's harder for you to stay in a certain
Of
weight. And then I
course.
started packing the pounds. I started having nocturia, urinating at night a lot, having the
Yeah.
sweats and all of this shaky stuff.
Yeah.
And I refused to take pharmaceuticals. So the
Right.
same thing I learned, and I
Mm.
was able to fix it and to
Mm.
lose weight. And what I take is berberine,
Mm.
berberine in conjunction with curcumin
Mm-hmm.
and bromelain. And
Right.
that actually, I studied it, and didn't only study like how it affects the body, but also the studies that they made on it. And it's literally the same to the medicine that's given to people that have diabetes.
Yeah.
The same thing it actually does in the body. It's just that one is patent because it's
Mm-hmm.
pharmaceutical, it's
Mm.
artificial, and the other one comes from nature. And that's what I
Right.
take. That's what, and a lot of people actually take that, and some doctors prescribe it,
Yeah.
but they
A lot
prescribe
of type
more.
twos will be happy to have something like that. Obviously, for myself, I'm a type one diabetic.
The one that works for me, that's for
Yeah.
people that have type 2.
Yeah.
One that it's not that you
Yeah.
inherit, that
Yeah.
you come with, that you actually have
Mm.
because you eat a lot of cookies.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's a
So I
totally
had the one
different.
that you eat a lot of cookies. You can fix it with that. That
Yeah.
one I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I got that when I was 9, and it was caused, they reckon it was caused through we had a really bad flu that year, and people were dying from it, and I caught it, and within 2 weeks I was in a coma, and they rushed me to hospital, and I survived, obviously, but have been on insulin ever since. But I think there are certain things that maybe one day we'll be able to get over with other ways of dealing with it. So there's always hope. There's always something. And
Yes.
I do believe we will be creatures that are not stuck in bad health in the future, that we will enter a new dimensional phase where we will be open to new ways of dealing with things. I really do believe that. Yeah.
Yeah, we're actually getting there. We just opened that kind of worms. There's a guy called Michael Levine, and he
Yes.
actually studies how, let's say, a cell has the potential to create anything from a pancreas to a
That
brain,
is so true.
but
Yeah.
what decides what is created? What
Yeah.
sends that signal? So it's electrical, and he's actually studying that. He's studying
Mm,
what actually triggers and sends the message
mm.
to I can't remember the type of cell. It's not a mother cell. They have a name that they have the potential to
Yeah.
create anything.
Yeah.
And then from that you can actually, once they understand that and they're able to use it, you can regrow. You don't have to do transplants. you just
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
just use that to have the person
Mm,
regrow a
yeah.
healthy organ, or fix, a broken bone
Yeah.
from anything.
I've been looking into all that myself, and they've started with T cells and stuff from fetuses and stuff like that from the umbilical cords, and they are doing like certain, they call it a bit like when they do the bone marrow, they do it with the T cells for certain people with it, and it has had a really good thing, but it don't last. So the people that have had it, after about 6 months, they revert back. So it's something that they can't keep doing. So they've obviously got to look at a new way. But obviously, that's very interesting. I know about that, man, and I've looked at some of the stuff, and it
Really?
is really exciting to think
Yes,
that this
yes.
can happen. There's also a man that's doing that for meat, so that people don't have to kill animals, that they'll be able to
Oh,
make meat, and it'll be exactly the same, but it will be made in the laboratory. So yeah, that's really cool. I've really enjoyed chatting with you today.
thank you.
What country are you in?
Well, right now I'm in the US. So but I came from Borinquen, which is
Uh-huh.
a little island in the tropics.
Oh, how lovely.
Yeah, so
Oh, that's nice.
yeah,
Yeah.
there it's you have beach everywhere. I
Oh,
think
nice.
there's only 3 million people that inhabit the island.
Right.
That's how big it is.
Oh,
So
how lovely. Do you
yeah.
miss it?
I do and I don't, because it was really dangerous,
Oh,
and it's sort of like third world. It's very very poor.
yeah.
So I had, even though I studied and I did a bachelor's degree, I couldn't find a job.
Oh,
And if I stayed there, the only thing that I would have eventually had to do was either live off of the government, uh,
mhm,
believe it or not, sell drugs or do
okay.
prostitution. As
Oh,
terrible as
dear.
that sounds, that is sort of like my outcome.
Oh,
So I had to join the military, even though I
uh-huh.
didn't believe in it. I don't like
No.
it, but I had to do what I had to do to get by, and I used it
Right.
as a bridge. And once I finished that, you know I pretty much just continue moving forward, just continue
Right.
moving. It's like everything in life. Life, it's just a roller coaster.
Yeah, it
You have
sure
good
is.
times, you have bad times. You can't
Mm,
expect to be up here all the time.
no.
But the thing is that when you get down, try to learn.
Yeah.
When If you learn when you're down here,
Hmm.
there's gonna be less of them, and when you get
Yeah.
there, it's you're gonna get better
Cool.
at jumping up. You're gonna get stronger, and then you're gonna be able to help other people.
Well, it's a true saying, isn't it? True saying. When you hit rock bottom, there's only one way to go, and that's back up.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Just get
yeah,
back up, and you're gonna keep getting better things. But trust me that nothing good is gonna come from you having it good. If you want something better, you're going to have to probably go
Yeah.
through hardships, probably
Mm.
for most people. Maybe some
Yeah.
people not, but for most people, they want bigger things. They're gonna have to go through more, you know, difficulties to get other things. So
Definitely. But yeah, that's the way of life. And doesn't matter what century you lived in, it's similar. So
uh,
it's an experience. Life is an experience, and one that is personal to each person, but is got the things that everybody goes through, but it's a difference for each person. So yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? She's very quiet, this one.
it's okay. She's absorbing.
Yeah, she's enjoying it though because she's listening.
Yeah, I hope. I hope. Yeah.
Oh, bless her. Anyway, it's lovely chatting with you, Toma. I
Thank you.
can't say your name right. Was it Toma?
Uh,
Toma? Toma?
Tauma. Tauma.
Toma. Lovely. Has it got a meaning to it?
Um, I said Toma is Tauma. 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 No, I think I just made up the name. I
Oh,
like that
okay.
it's not my
Right.
name. It's
Yeah,
like a magical name.
sure.
But it just sort of
But it
came
It
to me and I
sticks with
used
you.
it. It felt like at the moment that's where I am.
Right. That's
So
nice. Because it doesn't matter if you've been given a name, doesn't necessarily mean what you are. So something might like come along and you might think, actually, I prefer that.
yeah, or it just
Mm,
sort of feels right. I'm
mm,
very intuitive with everything. I just sort of
yeah.
I keep walking and what feels right, then I
Mm.
just let it go. But
Oh,
yeah,
lovely.
in time,
Yeah.
who knows?
Never say never to anything in this
Yeah,
world. Okay. Well, it's been absolutely amazing talking to you today. And if you ever want to come back on, just let me know. Just drop me a line
thank you,
and we can keep in touch and see how you're doing and what you're getting up to.
thank you,
Thank you for coming. It's really nice. And we will wish you all the best. And we will speak to you another time. Take care. Have a great day. And
you too.
blessings.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.
Bye.